Tuesday, August the 27th. Good morning and welcome to The Breakfast Show, The Morning Brief, right here on Channels Television. We're live for you in Lagos, and I'm Kayode Okikiodu.
And I'm Jeffrey Zama. Welcome. Our eyes are everywhere, including the world of sports, including what's going on in Paris. The Olympics, Paralympics, by the way, is supposed to starting today. And so our eyes are there. We're hopeful that our, Olympians, we'll call them, will be able to get us as many medals as possible and reverse the trend that we saw repeated between what happened in London and what happened in Paris.
No pressure, guys. No pressure.
No, there is
maybe
pressure.
A little bit of pressure. Okay, maybe, a 200 million pressure, literally. But go out there, do your thing. And it's important to always borrow. For me, actually, I always borrow things from sports for life. And I think we've said that time and again, how you can learn a lot of things from sports and, imbibe it into your life, the energy. Whoever you are this morning, you're obviously doing some sports. It's either your mind is racing, or you're racing to the bus stop, or you're doing your normal exercise. So let's just talk sports this morning. Jeffrey, the Super Eagles have a new head coach. Yes, you heard it here first. There you have it. The NFF has announced Bruno Labbadia as the new Super Eagles head coach. Well, it's been a long time coming.
It's been a
there
long
you have
time.
it. A German
waiting and waiting and waiting. So finally we got a new coach. We understand that as a German tactician, he becomes the 37th head coach of the Super Eagles, appointed to take charge of our Super Eagles with immediate effect. Born in 1966. So these Germans are having a great time right here in Nigeria. Okay, those are the details. So yes, that's what we're looking at.
So 58 years old. He's played, of course, a lot in Germany. Clubs like Bayern Munich, Hamburgers V, Werder Bremen, and so much more clubs.
He's even won He's even won the German Bundesliga
in 1994.
Munich in 94. Exactly. I remember when that was his first time we went to the World Cup, by the way. So we can remember that. So he's coached clubs like Hertha Berlin, Stuttgart, Wolfsburg, and other. Holds a UEFA Pro license. 6 German to lead the Super Eagles of Nigeria.
Absolutely.
He has some challenges ahead of him.
Definitely. Aside the 200 million plus pressure, as we said earlier on, his immediate challenge will be the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations qualifying matches. So he has Benin Republic lined up September the 7th. That's just in about 11 days, Jeffrey. And of course, Rwanda, September the 10th. So there you have it.
So there you have it. That's the latest breaking news coming in from the world of sports. Our brand new Tiaroba coach, like we say it in Nigeria. So welcome to Bruno. I'm wondering what are we going to be calling him? Is it Bruno or Labbadia?
Depends on because how the matches turn out.
Posero. So let's see. Maybe Bruno is going to work for Nigeria. So Coach Bruno,
you can Labbadia. You can decide whichever. But for Nigerians, what they want is quite clear. And this is the third head coach we've had this year, from Joseph Posero to Finidi George.
Finidi was the two-match coach.
Yeah, but too much. He goes down in history in some way. And then the 6th German we've had, as you mentioned, as head coach for Nigeria. So you just wonder, there's obviously a relationship there. So it's a big one for the Super Eagles. Obviously, the other names that were touted are not going to work out or didn't work out. I know there were some names touted, particularly when you saw some of them resigning. Well, one of them resigning from the club he was, coaching, and people thought, oh, that is going to be the man. But clearly, it is going to be Bruno.
At the end of the day, I hope that the NFF have done their due diligence to make sure that this is the right guy for the Super Eagles at this moment. And we have the pockets or the votes to be able to afford to pay him when due, because we've had issue with Posera and some others when it comes to paying these coaches, because we don't want anybody working from home. We want them to stay here and work for the Super Eagles and let money not be an issue. Talking about working from home, I was listening to the radio comments today. I think another country, is this Australia?
It has to be Australia.
I can't remember.
I know where you're going, but it's Australia.
You cannot. So this is how it works. The story we got today is the fact that, look, official things stay within official hours.
Yes.
So employees have a right to decline or not even read emails or messages after official hours. So, you know, when you're home, you're still doing work. In Australia right now, I think you can't do that. They have the discretion to either respond to you or not to respond to you because they want to separate, they want to have that work-life balance. So all official correspondence must be done within official hours. After that, it's within the prerogative of the employee to outrightly decline, dismiss, not look at it at all, and there will not be penalty for all of that.
So a lot of things jump at me here.
Yeah.
They're calling it the right to disconnect. So basically disconnect from work, and then focus on other things. But you have to understand the context. First, even in Australia, there are questions about how it will be implemented. I mean,
I'm curious.
Who would go to HR and say, HR, they've been sending me too much mails, particularly in the context of you still work there, right? And you obviously do not want issues with anybody. But clearly it is something that is very important to ensure that people have buckets for their lives. So there's a work bucket, there's a family bucket, there's a personal bucket. So all the buckets are full, not one being full at the expense of the other. Now bring this to Nigeria, Jeffrey. I just imagine the right to disconnect here in Nigeria. First, there's a challenge with people paying overtime. On the one hand, there's a challenge of unemployment or underemployment on the other hand, even though new figures, at least the new methodology shows that a huge chunk of people have some semblance of work on their hands, but we know that there's still the current challenge of unemployment. So they say that would you be, I don't want to say beggars cannot choose because that is not, I don't want to put that
beggars have no choice,
you know, but you know, let me just end there so I don't say the wrong things, but obviously the context matters here.
Absolutely. And one of the things I remember again, just chit-chatting what is going on around the country, I forgot to talk about this yesterday, but as I was just coming to work, I remember that Dr. Okonjo-Iweala, the DG of the WTO, she was quite brutal with the truth on Sunday at the NBA conference, and she talked about the social contract, literally talking to everyone. I think one of the big highlights was the fact that she told politicians to their faces, stop weaponizing insecurity. Some of you go out there and cause problem for the powers, or the incumbents, whether at any levels, and just to destabilize the polity for your own personal gain. You have to stop it. It's total nonsense in our books. And she said that has to stop. I think that was a clear message. One of the things I like about her presentation that day, because she talked about a lot of things: oil theft, citizens' responsibility, government responsibility. The only things I like about her presentation is the fact that she was very clear. You can understand what she's saying, and you know exactly where she's going with her message. So it can't be subjected to multiple interpretation. And I think time and again we need people at that level of prominence to be able to speak truth to power and to everyone relevant in the room.
Absolutely. So here's what we'll do on the show this morning. Let's unpack for you, shall we? It's a big one. As resident doctors down tools in desperation, seeking the release of their colleague from kidnappers' den, can the nation afford to ignore their plea for rescue and protection? In fact, another question is, how much more can a system already in need of desperate attention take? We'll sit down with the doctors this morning, get a sense of where they're at, what is being done as the clock ticks for the rescue of Dr. Okonjo-Iweala.
It's a big one as far as these doctors are concerned, but that's not all. We will be coming back to Lagos, Nigeria. Can the Lagos state government adequately harness the energy of the youth, transforming potential chaos into economic dynamism, and uniting a city bubbling with diversity in the process? Join the Commissioner for Youth and Social Development as we delve into the bold strategy to rewrite the future of Nigeria's pulsating metropolis.
As you always say,
city that never
this
sleeps.
is Lagos, right? But that's not all. There's also another big one, and it concerns the federal government's tertiary education age limit. So, will Nigeria's over 18 tertiary admission policy become a ticking time bomb? That's what we're asking. What will it do to the potential of very young, gifted people who, of course, might not be at that age, and their future as well? Well, join us as we sit with an educationist who's sounding an alarm as we dissect the far-reaching consequences of this, well, controversial, debatable, call it whatever, policy, and explore the pros and the cons.
Absolutely. So you can join us as well on X as well as on WhatsApp, and let's have a good time together on the program.
Absolutely. So hashtag CTV Morning Brief, that's how you can be a part of the show. Or just head over to WhatsApp and send us your comments, thoughts, or videos, right? It's a community show. You are the third anchor on this set, not minding that Bukola is away on vacation.
So that's the number. Messages and videos only. Yeah. Bring it on. We want to talk to you. And of course, one of the most important things we want you to send to us is videos of hospital in case you visited any hospital, because we understand they said even emergency cases they don't get the attention. So resident doctors have down tools for 1 week because they want their colleague released after being incarcerated, or not incarcerated, been in abductors then for about 8 months, I understand.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, they want all of that sorted. They are not playing. So if there's anything going on around the hospital where you are, please bring it. Send it to that WhatsApp number. It will help us amplify and energize the message so that the relevant authorities can call them into the room and see what they can do to intervene as soon as possible.
Right. So the biggest stories are up next on the Morning Brief. Stay with us right here as we walk you through the biggest talking points, what's happening in the country and across. That's in a few seconds. Stay with us. Atop on the brief this morning, it's day 2 of the 7-day warning strike by members of the National Association of Resident Doctors, NERD, here in Nigeria. An action, they say, it's intended to draw the attention of security agencies to the need to rescue their colleague who has been kidnapped for 8 months. Dr. Ganiet Popola, a registrar at the Department of Ophthalmology, National Eye Center, Kaduna, was abducted on December the 27th, 2023, and has since not been released. The Association of Resident Doctors say they will be compelled to withdraw their services indefinitely if Dr. Popola is not freed at the expiration of the warning strike.
We did not actually make this decision as a very easy decision, as because we know the effect it will have not just on the victims but also on the Nigerian society. But it's quite painful for you to have a member of your association in captivity, know that he's alive, know that there are people within the country that can get that out. And for 8 months, you've been trying to reach out. If you want to look at it, we've actually followed through a process. And that process has taken us 8 painful months. We've done the media engagement. We've done the protests. There's still no yield. Now we are going on this warning strike. We've did a 7-day warning strike, which we've started. If the government brings our house, we come back to work. We are happy to take care of the Nigerians. We already chose to stay back, and we are happy to do our jobs. But we are hoping that in 7 days, they should be able to do it. But if by 7 days, we don't get the response, we will have to proceed on an indefinite strike going forward. It's the job of the federal government, primary job of the federal government, to actually protect the lives and properties of these citizens. So they have given us a job, we've done our job, now we are asking them to do their job. But if they are not going to do their job, then maybe we will hold our services till the government is ready to ensure the release of our member.
Well, staying with security, the police in Sokoto State is denying knowledge of a reported abduction of over 150 in Sabumbirni area, a few days after the gruesome murder of Zakin Gubir Gatawa Issa Muhammad Bawa. Professor Bello Bada of Usman Danfodio University, Sokoto, in an earlier interview with RFI Hausa, had said the kidnapping happened after the late emir was killed. But the spokesman of the Sokoto State Police Command, Assistant Superintendent of Police Ahmed Rufai, in a telephone chat with our correspondent, said the police is not aware of this. He, however, admitted that the Sabumbirni axis and other parts of Sokoto East Senatorial District have been faced with a serious security threat, with many residents under threat of attack, and some find it difficult to report cases to security agencies. Well, the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Gbetogun, has ordered operatives of the force to track down and arrest the sponsors and killers of policemen involved in a recent procession by the Islamic movement in Nigeria, commonly known as the Shiite. According to a statement by the force spokesperson, Muyiwa Adejobi, the IG condemned the killing of police officers while on duty, stating that those who murdered the policemen have murdered peace. The The statement adds that in line with the directive of the Inspector General of Police, the progressive efforts of police operatives have led to the arrest of 97 suspects and the recovery of several weapons said to have been used in the attack. While in the security sector, there's been new appointments, as President Bola Tinubu has approved the appointment of new Directors General of the National Intelligence Agency, NIA, and the Department of State Services, DSS, while Ambassador Mohammed is a new Director General of the NIA. Mr. Adiola Oluwatosin Ajayi is now the new Director General of the DSS. The new appointment followed the resignation of the previous NIA and DSS chiefs. According to presidential spokesman Abah Innocent, President Tinubu expects the new security chiefs to work diligently to reposition the two intelligence agencies for better results. And to Niger State now, where the state government has conditionally suspended the ban on mining activities in this state, a year after the governor, Umar Bago, placed a ban on mining activities. This latest move paves the way for regulated mining operations to resume. Acting Governor Yakubu Garba announced the suspension at the Government House in Mina, the state capital, outlining the conditions for mining companies to operate in the state.
The mining industry is crucial for our economic growth, but illegal mining activities harm our future generation. That's why government suspended mining activities in Niger State some months ago. But despite government efforts, the compliance has been very low, as we are all aware. So we are taking decisive action by lifting the suspension conditionally. We are confident that the task force that will be integrated today will enforce regulations and ensure responsible mining practice across the state. To you, the selected members of this very committee, we entrust you with a significant responsibility to protect our environment, ensure fair and just practices, and secure Niger State future. We will support you fully and act against those acting outside the law. Let's work together to build a sustainable mining sector that benefits everyone.
On the way to the south-south region of the country, where protests by residents of Amadiama community in Port Harcourt, River State capital, has obstructed business activities at the NLNG headquarters. Well, they are protesting the death of one of them, Precious Imabibo, due to what they say is alleged recklessness by an NLNG boat, which they claim caused a surge of water with Lake Precious was fishing on January the 20th, leading to his drowning.
We went to be fishing. That was Saturday evening. Around at 6:30, so the NLNG when I come from Bonnet, they seek the boy food. Up till now, they didn't give us anything that said, you don't need any more for yourself. So I say, I apologize, I say, sorry, madam, and sorry, sir. Till today, we didn't see anything from them. So we went to Amadi police station to report the case. They invite us, we went there, but don't head and take. Went to them, let them invite us to go and area command. No way. Went to Marine Police again. We thought that maybe Marine Police would arrest this boat, the energy boat, Covenant 2. If either Covenant 2 or Covenant 1. Up there to tell that they are not arrest that boat.
In responding to these allegations in a statement, the General Manager, External Relations and Sustainable Development, Andy O'Day, says the NLNG is aware of a recurrence of a protest at its corporate head office in Port Harcourt by a groom, it says, is claiming to represent the family involved in an incident allegedly involving an NLNG chartered passenger boat along the Amadi Creek in January. O'Day noted that relevant stakeholders are being engaged towards an amicable resolution. Well, let's talk local governance now, as the governor of Edo State says the implementation of a local government financial autonomy as granted by the Supreme Court should commence in the state by October the 1st. And talk about independence. Mr. Obaseki gave the timeline after inaugurating an implementation committee to work out the modalities for a smooth transition inside the executive chambers of the Government House in Benin City, the state capital. He charged the committee to review the joint financial commitments involving the state and local government council. These include payments to traditional institutions, pensions, and local security network.
The traditional council staff are under the pay of the local governments. We have to agree on, now that there's autonomy in which local government is involved, how that is now going to be dealt with monthly. one concern that we would like to, well, not a concern, one of the areas we would like to also, we would like the committee to look at very closely and work out a seamless arrangement will be the monthly pension payments and savings to pay the arrears of pension obligations to retired workers from the local government service. As you're aware, for security, we have been jointly financing the training of vigilantes from the various local governments. How would this be carried on going forward? And then, lastly, we recall that we had started this program of jointly financing the rollout of fiber optic connections to your local governments. And this last we have a phase currently on where we are connecting primary healthcare centers in some of the local governments to this fiber network. And therefore, this is an area we need to look at how to now jointly finance.
Staying with governance and the law, former President of Ghana, John Mahama, says there's a need for the establishment of a Pan-African legal framework that will reflect the continent's values and realities, as well as help solve the challenges facing the continent. The former president said this at the Nigeria Bar Association Annual General Conference here in Lagos. In his words, the recent wave of political insurrections and coups in Africa, particularly in the Sahel region, reflects deep-seated issues of injustice, alienation, and marginalization. The state fragility and insecurity that have led to military takeovers have not only disrupted mutual understanding within the Southwest sub-region, but also exposed the limitation of current diplomatic and interventionist strategies, he says. And on to business news. The National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, has said Nigeria's gross domestic product, GDP, for the second quarter of 2024 grew by 3.19%. In its Q2 2024 GDP report on Monday, the Bureau said Nigeria's GDP rose year-on-year in real terms in the second quarter. The NBS stated that this growth rate is higher than the 2.51% recorded in the second quarter of 2023 and higher than the first quarter of 2024 growth of 2.98%. The NBS said the performance of the GDP in the second quarter of 2024 was driven mainly by the services sector, which recorded a growth of 3.79% and contributed 58.76% to aggregate GDP. And outside the country, Kyiv says Russia attacked Ukraine with more than 200 missiles and drones on Monday, killing 7 people and striking energy facilities nationwide, while neighboring NATO member Poland reported a drone had probably entered its airspace. Power infrastructure was hit, causing widespread blackouts as the entire country was put under air raid alert and told to take shelter. Russia confirmed it had launched attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure, one of its long-term tactics, and said all its targets were hit. According to Mykola Oleshuk, who is the commander of Ukraine's Air Force, Russia launched 127 missiles and 109 attack drones. Out of them, Ukraine shot down 102 missiles and 99 drones, he said on Telegram. And out to the big story in sports, the Nigeria Football Federation, NFF, has reached an agreement with German tactician Bruno Labbadia to become the head coach of Nigeria's senior men national team, Super Eagles. In a statement released in the early hours of today, the NFF General Secretary, Dr. Mohamed Sanusi, said the approval was given by the NFF Executive Committee following a recommendation of its Technical and Development Subcommittee. Well, the 58-year-old in his playing days capped for several clubs, including Bayern Munich, FC Cologne, Werder Bremen, Arminia Bielefeld, and Karlsruhe SC. He won the German Bundesliga with Bayern Munich as a player in 1994. He then went on to coach Wolfsburg, Leverkusen, Hertha Berlin, and VfB Stuttgart. He becomes the 6th German to coach the Eagles. The statement adds that Labadia's immediate challenge is to take charge of 3-time African champions for 2 2025 AFCON qualifying matches against Benin Republic on September the 7th in New York and Rwanda on September the 10th in Kigali. Then we have 4 other matches to conclude the qualifying race following in the months of October and November. Oh, there you have it, Labadia, the latest Super Eagles head coach. But on the flip side, however, tributes continue to pour in for Sven-Göran Eriksson, best remembered as England's first foreign manager and the man who presided over the country's so-called golden generation during his time in charge. Paying tribute, FIFA President Gianni Infantino said the Swede that he was deeply saddened to learn of Sven-Göran Eriksson's passing, a man he described as a global influence whose career also included coaching national teams from 4 different continents, with time spent in charge of England, Mexico, Cote d'Ivoire, and the Philippines. David Beckham paid tribute to true gentleman Sven-Göran Eriksson and said he will be forever grateful, while striker Wayne Rooney, who made his England debut under Eriksson as a 17-year-old, described him as a special man. Eriksson had revealed in January that he had been diagnosed with cancer and given at least a year to live, or at best a year to live. Well, such a great tactician, definitely, and the football world will miss him. But let's take a look at some of the things you're talking about across social media, and Jeffrey joins me to walk through the streets of X.
Yeah, absolutely. So our thoughts and prayers, of course, are with the Eriksson family. He was a great guy, and he led that golden era.
Oh, yes.
England will never, ever forget him. But he's done his time, and he's done his bit. So our thoughts again and our prayers are with the family. But let's get to other things you've been talking about on X. And we'll begin with that big one. The resident doctors are down into saying, look, we're not going to work. We will withdraw our services from yesterday, Monday, all the way 7 days, because our colleagues have been targeted or kidnapped, and there's one that's been in kidnappers' den for about 8 months. So this is coming from Obotex. Obotex World says, this is worrying development. It's a worrying development showcasing the risks medical professionals face. Hopefully, the strike will prompt action from the authorities to resolve all the crises.
Indeed. And Ark Manachimso says kidnapping has been on the rise lately. If you're going out now, be very careful, especially if you're taking public transport. Ensure you stay by the door, and ends with a prayer. I pray she returns in one piece. Amen to that.
Igbala Emmanuel says, Omo, this is really serious matter. So the people in the hospital now, how are they going to be doing? That's a big question for everyone.
Well, don't worry. We're getting the doctors, a representative of the doctors on this show to speak to some of these issues. And takes me to the next one from Lulu. Says if doctors go on strike, people's lives are in danger. But then some say, well, the lives of people are already in danger. One of them, Dr. Ganiat Kokola. So one for all for one, they say.
At the end of the day, medical services are critical. They call them essential services, perhaps one of the most critical services for any society. So this is as urgent as yesterday. So this is like 911 on the policy to get things fixed as soon as possible. Let's go to the next one. We talked about this earlier. Yeah. Dr. Okonjo-Iweala talking to the political class and the citizens as well. As far as this is concerned, she said politicians somehow in the habit of weaponizing insecurity, literally causing chaos so that the person in power will look bad. And she said, this has to stop. It was a clear statement. So these are your responses. Lufumi, it says, tourism and insurgency will not stop in Nigeria. Okay, terrorism and insurgency will not stop in Nigeria until the federal government can identify the sponsors and deal with them decisively.
There you have it. And Emmanuel Abe says that, well, he thinks she's making a point because it's still questionable to see, according to this user, how he believes the government has been romancing the insecurity situation in the country for so many years. We had a former president actually saying that, you know what, in this my cabinet, in this my inner caucus, in my house, they're suspects.
Yeah, suspects.
Right there.
There are people against me. Barney Samuel says, God bless her for this. We all know this whole thing is politically driven. Playing opposition as to many politicians is sponsoring all kinds of destructive acts just to appear on television and cry over the same fire. They said, Nigeria will prevail.
And I
want an exclamation.
Definitely. I want you to now take a moment to go through what Ikena Oche has to say. And it's a very interesting angle to this. It says, democratizing insecurity and poverty has become the only strategy for attaining and retaining political power in Nigeria as far as pseudo elitism is concerned, it's something you might need to sit down to properly understand. Now, what they don't realize is that the room for maneuver is drastically running out for them. And this user ends by saying, their victims shall surely laugh last. So it reminds me of that saying, one day for the thief and every day.
Oh, no, every day for the thief, one day for the honor.
How did I mix that up? Forgive me, thank you.
So at the end of the day, it's cheap thinking, it's poor thinking, it's low thinking, it's abysmal, obnoxious.
Lack of creativity, come on.
For you to just, I don't know, we need to do better. And I'm sure if you go to the African continent, it's not just Nigeria. This may be replicated across
other parts of the world. You hear all the conspiracy theories and the rest.
So, but at least in those climes, the way we do it here is just out of order. Why do you go and set your house on fire just to make you look good? You set it on fire and rebuild it again. Somebody says, come on, politicians, you can do better than that. Okay. It's not from me, it's Okonjo-Iweala.
And this is why we need better intelligence, really. Because if we have a strong, or at least stronger intelligence community, then you can obviously see through all of these.
Now we have the NIA,
exactly,
the DSS changing
guards
of some sort.
So let's see what you have to say about that. The president appointing new DGs for NIA and DSS. Okara has the first one saying these appointments should make a good impact on the security sector. Is that a prayer or a statement you're making for sure? We'll wait to find out.
OC Militainment TV, that's what you call yourself. I hope their tenure favors us all. More grace to them. That's the point. You know, if it works for all of us. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work for all of us.
And on the streets of Twitter, you see another kind of conversation happening on this one, particularly the DSS. But this statement, Nuhu Dalhatu, says, may this development yield better results. So clearly Nigerians are approaching this with prayers.
Yes, Nigerians are exhausted. Let's be clear. Nigerians are exhausted. So let's get to the GDP growth. Some good one. As far as the management of our economy is concerned, GDP up by 3.19%. It grew by 3.19%.
So Jeffrey,
in Q4.
If something drops,
in Q2,
right?
2024.
So if something drops and then it grows by a certain percentage, which is higher than what it was before it dropped, can you really say that's an increase? But
well, if it left somewhere below and came up, whether it attained the other place or not,
statistics, Jeffrey.
Statistics. When you open it says, how is this growth not translating to a better life for citizens in the streets of Oshodi in Lagos, Obiago in Enugu, and Sabongeri in Kano? What are we missing?
And just one more on this one, and that's from Zubair Abdullahi, saying hopefully in the coming months, our lives will begin to improve, because we're seeing the numbers improve. So this is saying now we're waiting for the lives to improve. When workers start receiving the new minimum wage and fuel prices become stable. This user ends by saying it's been a horrible year since the removal of subsidy and devaluation of the naira. So
when they aggregate the production within the time frame that GDP measures, but we still know that productivity is a big deal in our country. As soon as we start producing the way we produce, trust me, a lot of things will change in our country. So that's where the government should come in. So, but those are the ones we're tracking for you. That's as much as we can take. But don't stop bringing them on. Even on WhatsApp, we told you, if you visit at any hospital, and whatever you see, if you can take pictures, you can do videos, please send it to us. It will help us amplify the message we're trying to get across to the government to do something urgently, because it's a 911 situation. These doctors are not playing.
SOS, they say. So here's what we'll do. Join us right here as we have a sit down right now with the doctors, find out what is going on, what is the game plan, and what are they hearing? Is there some hope in sight? That's in a few seconds right here. So join us.
Apparently, there's no other conversation that should be more important than the one we're about to have now. The reason is simple. Resident doctors, they make up the majority of the doctors in tertiary hospitals. At the end of the day, they have said, we've just had about enough. We can't just sit still, and our members, our colleagues are being kidnapped and some even killed, including their family members. They say no more. So they've taken a case, a particular one that has been, this doctor has been in captivity for about 8 months, and they're using her as some kind of a reference to say, get her out, else we're not going back to work. But we're going to give you 7 days warning strike. After this one, we don't know what they're up to next. But these doctors, we will not speak for them, they will speak for themselves. That's why we have them in the studio. Joining us from Abuja studio is the President, Association of Resident Doctors, University of Abuja Teaching Hospital, Dr. Abah Innocent. Dr. Innocent, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you so very much for having me. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, viewers across the globe. Thank you so very much for having me.
As I did say in my introduction, apparently you said the doctors, the resident doctors, which make up a lot of the majority, have said you had enough. So maybe you walk us through how many doctors have been kidnapped in, say, the last 1 year or two, or as much as you can remember. How many were even killed, or family members, as much as you can remember, and how many were released?
Thank you so very much. Before now, I had sent an archive of doctors that are currently in captivity, those that have been killed, those whose whereabouts we've not been able to establish. I sent that earlier, and as I speak with you right now, we have about 32 of our members currently in captivity. Like I said, some were noted to have died. Some ransoms have been paid, and they've not been reunited with their family. Some are alive, but currently our data shows about 32 of our members that are currently in captivity. Thank you so very much.
And you know, this is a very tricky one. I recall the last time we had this conversation with you and other members. You know, we had security operatives as well, or at least security consultants, who were saying, well, maybe some of these attacks are just random, not targeted at medical doctors. But of course, that is quite debatable, really, because he who feels it knows it. Exactly. So speak to us about the dilemma you had to face, particularly coming off of that emergency meeting which you had Sunday, late on Sunday into Monday. What are the dilemmas you had to face? On the one hand, providing care to people, emergency care, people whose lives are at risk, and then your member whose life is at risk. So how did you go through the dilemma to arrive at the decision to go on strike?
Thank you so very much. Let me start with the notion that was painted by the guests as at the last time we met, when he tried to debunk the idea that doctors are not targeted. Now, it's very laughable, to be very honest and sincere with you. You know, the Nigerian situation, when a challenge comes up, instead of tackling such a challenge, we try to generalize it. And when you generalize situations like this, it becomes difficult for you to be able to tackle the problem. There are very obvious reasons that doctors are being targeted. We've never seen the kind of upsurge in kidnapping of doctors and health workers like we are currently seeing. It's an emerging pandemic. And until government rise up to the task, we'll have a crisis on our hand. And this is the reason why we are beginning to clamor and draw government's attention, because if you have an incident that before now, you're having about 2 cases, say in a month, and suddenly it becomes a weekly occurrence, then something is not right. As I speak to you, again, a doctor was kidnapped in Lokoja. Dr. Fada Hunsi, a consultant radiologist, she was kidnapped on Friday last week, and this is beginning to look like a weekly occurrence. 2 in a week, 3 in a week, and so this is why we are beginning to draw government's attention. So it is not acceptable for somebody to come and say there is no targeted attempt. That is a general problem. We understand that kidnapping is a general problem, but what we are seeing, recent evidence shows a target on doctors. Now, how did we arrive at the decision for the current industrial action? 8 months now we are counting for Dr. Ganiat Pupola. We didn't just wake up to declare the industrial action. First month, second month, the third month, the fourth month. I mean, this is a Nigerian that was kidnapped right in the hospital facility. And we are calling on government to live up to its responsibility of providing security for lives and property. So this is just the clamor. So it's been there, the conversation has been there, we've engaged relevant authorities. It was because we did not see any palpable effort. That is why we're pushed to the wall. You cannot beat a child and say the child should not cry. Again, we also, the statistics that I sent earlier, we also have Professor Ekanem Phillips, 1 year in captivity. Again, she was kidnapped right in her facility in Calabar. She is a professor of stroke medicine. We do not have as many of these specialists in Nigeria currently, and instead of these people to stay within the hospital facility and render essential healthcare services to patients, they are being held across different kidnap camps in Nigeria. So all we are asking for is we are drawing government's attention to this emerging pandemic, that if it is not tackled, it will metamorphose into a very big situation, because currently the health sector is in crisis in Nigeria. Let me give you an instance where we say the health sector is in crisis in Nigeria and government needs to give dedicated attention to this anomaly. The WHO recommendation for doctor to patient ratio is at 1:6. The Nigerian Medical Association President, Professor Bala Audu, made us understand that this has fallen below 1,000%. As currently we are having 4 doctors to 10,000 patients. And then of these 4 doctors to 10,000 patients, you have a whopping number of 32 that are known to us to be in captivity. 32 doctors who should be able to mount at least 7 teaching hospitals comfortably, should be able to provide comprehensive health care to patients in rural facilities, in the primary health care sector, in the secondary health sector, but all of these, our colleagues, are being held in different captivity camps. This is why we're beginning to, rise up to the fact that we need to draw government's attention, we need to engage relevant authorities before this gets out of hand, if at all it has not gotten out of hand.
Let's talk about a few, because you had mentioned something that I had to take up that debate with the Honorable Minister for State for Health, Dr. Tunji Alausa. He had mentioned that the healthcare sector is not in crisis, and we wanted to know what parameters by which he measured that. But now you are the practitioner, the professional, you're saying this as well. But my question will be, how much do you think this strike action or downing of tools were achieved? Because if it was things like, remuneration or something that relates to welfare that has to do with pay package, even with that is always a big fight between governments and, associations and unions. Sometimes it doesn't happen, sometimes they're even surcharged or their salaries withheld. If after 7 days nothing comes out of this, what happens? And have the authorities been talking to you since these 2 days you've embarked on this strike?
Thank you so very much. Again, the reason for the strike has been well clarified. It was because this is like the only available option for us as it stands, because 8 months. If anything happens to this, our colleague would not be able to, clear our consciences, because conscience, they say, is an open wound, and only the truth heals it. And so this is the time. We know the strike action, we orchestrate some difficulties to Nigerians. It is really highly regrettable. But, as it was said earlier in the studio, if it is good for one, it's good for all of us. So this clamor is also to draw government's attention to insecurity in the country. So, for now, the strike is ongoing. Today is 2nd day into the strike. We are open to engagement, to discussion, to roundtable discussion with government and relevant agencies. All we are saying is the safe release of our colleague, Dr. Ganiat Pupuola. What will happen at the expiration of the 1-week ultimatum is left to the National Executive Council of the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors. The Congress we had Sunday night was only adjourned for a recess. We continue to monitor the situation. We continue to engage government. And if anything positive comes out, we are willing and ready to reconsider our position. But what will happen if she is not released, we may not be able to say until the National Executive Council meets again. Thank you, sir.
All right. I asked earlier about the dilemma because this has thrown up a big debate now. And some are even saying, okay, if all the other professional bodies or unions decide to go on strike as a result of either one of them or more who's been kidnapped, either recently or remains in captivity, they wonder who then will be left to work, even though there's, well, we'll still wait to see, at least see other bodies if they will come out or otherwise. So there's that debate about whether or not this is part of the engagement of labor. Is this enough reason for doctors to go on strike? Again, you can respond to that debate from where you see it. But I'm quite curious to know the options available to doctors now in the coming days. But you can speak to that part of the debate, the propriety of the whole resident doctors in Nigeria going on strike as a result of one of them who's been kidnapped. Again, you feel it, you know it better. They say that what if other unions, other professional bodies go on strike? Is that something that you think you will have set a precedence for? So you can respond to those issues.
Again, thank you very much for that. It may interest you that there is provision for industrial action in the labor law. However, as it was earlier deposited, it was not the primary decision. This has been 8 months. Again, to draw our attention to the fact that, you see, for the fact that Nigerians are beginning to accept anomalies, there are things that obviously shouldn't happen. And I don't know whether complacency of government, you know, because you see 10 people being kidnapped, and then we see it as normal, life goes on, 15 persons being kidnapped, we see it as normal. We are beginning to accept a lot of these anomalies. We should not be. So for the fact that it happened and nobody took action, and you know everybody went about it and saw it as normal, does not mean if it happens in another sector and people rise up to act, that government lives up to its responsibility of security of lives and property, it does not make it anomaly. So it's our right to demand for security in our workplaces, because again, our colleague was kidnapped right in her place of work. So there's justification for our action, and again, this is a warning strike. So we are hoping that within this period, government will live up to its responsibility and do the needful.
All right, doctor, so let's assume that government calls you to the table. What are the things you would like to hear that can make you call off this strike as soon as possible?
Thank you very much. Our demand is the safe release of our colleague, Dr. Ganiat Pupuola. And we are, like I said, we are ready to, it may not be a one-day effort. And this is why we have decided to embark on this, to draw government's attention, because we know with sincere commitment of government, our colleague will be released. So if we are beginning to see this effort, it will be very obvious. Take, for instance, the case of the kidnapping of the 20 medical students recently. You know, It took government a very short time, and the 20 medical students were released. We had this conversation on this platform where we drew government's attention. Along the line, helicopters were mobilized, drones were mobilized, personnel were mobilized, and we saw this effort. Again, we must appreciate the Inspector General of Police for rising up. These are the measures that we are clamoring for. That effort be immediate, response be proactive, because the longer you wait, the more complicated the discussion becomes. Because for Dr. Ganiat, we are talking about 8 months. And so, this is about time government do the needful.
All right. You know, it's just a very sad development, really, that this has lingered for 8 months. One only imagines what the family has been going through. 8 months. This is not 1 week. This is not 2 weeks. This is 8 definitely not good months for the family. So it's a harrowing experience, definitely. Now the challenge will be what will then happen to those who are seeking care at the hospitals? You said there is even no emergency care. Resident doctors are withdrawing service, and we know how vital you are to an already ailing sector, which is ironic because you're meant to provide health, but we know what is happening in that sector. So are you worried that this might then cause perhaps deaths or people not getting access to medical care, so making a bad situation worse? How are you balancing that dilemma, which I started with in the first place?
Thank you. Again, if government has done the needful, there wouldn't be need for this industrial action. Like you said earlier, you said not 1 week, not 1 month, not 2 months. So one has to do what one has to do. We know there are implications to this decision. Again, this is why it's a warning strike for 1 week. If government does the needful, we'll be back to work. Because the other option is for us to forget about our colleague. And posterity will not be fair to us. That we had the voice, the platform, to be able to call on government's attention, and we did nothing. So we want to appeal to the Nigerians all across to also understand the plight of the Nigerian doctor. We are going through so much. As a patient, you want to see a doctor, that is psychologically sound. You want to see your doctor in a good state of health of mind and body. This is the doctor that every patient wants to see. And so if we sit in the consulting room, this could have happened to anybody, knowing fully well that our colleague, Dr. Ganiat Pupola, and all of our other colleagues are languishing in different captivity camps, then posterity will not be fair to us. So we want to appeal to Nigerians to also add voice to our clamoring, to our advocacy, so that government can do the needful. Again, if government does the needful, we will be back to our duty point. All right. Please, for sake of clarity, we did not just take this decision on impulse. We've consulted. We've tried to assess the intervention offered over the last 8 months. And so, this is the point where we had to take this decision. And we are hoping that since it's a warning strike, government will do the needful.
All right, Abah Innocent, I want to put up a bit of a slide of the things that the doctors, I should say. So those are the doctors. So if we can get back to the very first one, these are the compilations that were done by the medical doctors. But Dr. Innocent has said about 32 in captivity. So from the list you're seeing, some that have been released, some in captivity, I guess, some killed, I guess. So Dr. Innocent may reconfirm in case I'm mistaking one for the other. So if we go to the next slide, we'll see where Dr. Popolak's name comes in. somewhere around part of the slide. So number 14 is where you see Dr. Ganiat Pupula, which she's been in captivity since December 2023. And this is why they are saying, look, this is just about enough. But let me come back to you, Dr. Innocent, as we need to wind down on this one. My question will be looking at what you said by your own admission that, look, this is becoming too much of a trend. As an association level, at personal level, what measures are you guys taking to protect yourself against all of this? Are you doing any courses on personal safety? At least if government is not protecting you, you don't want to be kidnapped.
Thank you so very much. Yes, we have done a lot within ourselves, among ourselves, a lot of advocacy, a lot of campaign, measures. We have also engaged security personnel in seminars, workshops, because these will not come to an end soon. Although it is our prayer that government will rise up to its responsibility of security of lives and property. Now, some of the measures we have also taken, we've cautioned our colleagues. There is a policy document on, ways to avoid being kidnapped. But again, the situation has gone beyond that because we are beginning to notice this kidnapping right in the head facility. If you will project slide 10 downward, I will be able to talk about some of the slides. So it's not as if doctors are kidnapped on the walkway, on the highway, right inside of the facility. Professor Ekanem was kidnapped right inside of our clinic at Calabar. Dr. Ganiat was, yes. Dr. Chinelo, number 10, Dr. Chinelo Megafu, 28th of March, was among the trained victim, and you will recall that she had tested, that she was a medical doctor, and this was the situation. It was all over the social media, and again, because of the generalization, that makes us not to take proactive measure. When she spoke and sent that tweet, again, because she was on official duty, in that train on transit. Then you see Professor Ekanem Phillips on number 12. This list is by no means comprehensive because there was a kidnap of a doctor in Enugu. It's not captured in this list. There was a kidnap of a doctor in Anambra State. It's not captured in that list. There is a current kidnap of a doctor, Dr. Fadahunsi, a consultant radiologist, in her clinic in Lokoja, is not captured in that list. So that list is by no means comprehensive. But these are our colleagues that are currently in detention. And this has reduced the workforce currently in the health sector. Because if these doctors and personnel are currently in all of their duty posts, it will reduce the current pressure in the health sector. So our members have been cautioned, and some of these measures, time will not permit me to begin to list all of the measures that we've taken, but we've engaged security personnel, we've gotten a lot of professional advice, and all of our members. But the issue goes beyond kidnap on the highway and all of that. We are seeing this is a targeted kidnap right inside of the health facility. You see all of this. And even when they are kidnapped, it takes a very long time before they are released. That is to tell you that, yes.
My apologies because of time, but I think your points are well noted, and I hope, and we all hope, that the government and the authorities will do the needful to not just, secure the release of doctors as well as other Nigerian citizens, but we empathize with your association, and we hope that this will be sorted out so that this strike will be called off as soon as possible. Dr. Abah Innocent is the chairman of the Association of Resident Doctors, University of Abuja Teaching Hospital in Abuja. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
When we come back after the break, we will switch gears. So the issues that has to do with youths, especially in Lagos State, the Commissioner for Youths will be joining us right here in our Lagos studios. Join us again.
Lagos. I'm not just saying this because this is Lagos. I'm saying this because that's what you see as you're coming into Lagos. But what is inside Lagos, particularly for the teeming youths who have now called Lagos their home, where they're doing business, raising a family? What exactly does the Lagos State government have in store for them of what we saw playing out during the election, the aftermath of it? And of course, if you're on social media, you see a lot of debate about Lagos. But let's focus on the big picture this morning as we're joined by the Honorable Commissioner for Youth and Social Development in Lagos State, Mr. Mobolaji Ogunlede. He's right here with us in our Lagos studio. Good morning, Mr. Ogunlede. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning, Kayode. Thanks for having me.
Let me start with the elephant in the room. This is Lagos, clearly, and it's a statement that resonates for a lot of people. But I want you to lay the foundation. Is Lagos, would I say, a safe place, a place to thrive for any and every youth? Wherever you're coming from, whatever ethnicity, creed you believe in, what does Lagos hold for them, particularly from the government? Now, we're not talking social media or handlers. What is the government's perspective to this? Then we'll dovetail into other issues.
So thank you, Kayode, and good morning, everyone, and thanks for having me. I like the way you started it by saying this is Lagos, because this is Lagos. Lagos, center of excellence. Lagos, state of aquatic splendor. Lagos, the financial hub of Africa. When you talk about Nigeria, you talk about Lagos. If you're not talking about Lagos, then you're not in Nigeria. Lagos, very diverse, very dynamic, which is why we continue to have an influx of youths and people generally into Lagos. Lagos is a place to thrive, which is why we keep having people, flocking into Lagos. But from the government's perspective, there's a lot that is being done. We accept and we recognize that there's a lot more that needs to be done. But let me bring it home to the Ministry of Youth and Social Development, where I am the commissioner. Our vision is to be and remain the model youth and social development agency in Nigeria and beyond. And this is it's very loaded. Under the Ministry of Youth and Social Development, as you're aware, our Themes Plus agenda, to start with, the plus, social inclusion, gender equality, and the youth, ultimately leave no one behind. And behind this are is multi-layered. We have a lot of activities going on, we have a lot of programs, we have a lot of initiatives. Most importantly, to bring it back home again, this is the International Youth Week, which is what led to this conversation of me being here. There are a lot of activities we have lined up. There are a lot of activities that are going on. Today is the final day of our week-long International Youth Week. I'll dovetail into that a little bit more. But just so that I stay focused on what you're saying, there are so many things, so many programs which I will reel out, as we move on. But as I'm on this program, when the Ministry of Youth and Social Development, a lot of us focus on the youth. Right, but there's the social development aspect of it that I'd just like to echo a little bit, right? The social development part of the ministry, we have 4 departments: rehabilitation department, social welfare department, child development department, and then the youth department. And again, multidimensional. We deal with adoption, rescuing of destitutes on the streets, rescuing of destitutes of the streets, orphanage homes and orphanages. We have 15 homes and institutions. We have correctional facilities. We have juvenile centers. All of this is encompassed under the social development. We also have an agency called LASODA, Lagos State Office of People Living with Disability, again under the same ministry. By virtue of my position, I also sit as chairman of NYSC. By virtue of my position, I also have a supervisory function for our Lagos State Sports Commission. Right? When we talk about youth, we talk about sports. When you talk about sports, you talk about youth. So I have that supervisory function as well. So when you understand that the ministry is, loaded and it's encompassed, then you start to realize and appreciate, what we do for the youths. Lagos is big, 57 local governments and LCDAs, right? There are so many youths. We have the formal, we have the informal. Again, I'll dovetail into numbers and, programs that we're doing. But again, I'm just trying to capture it all, just to give you a broad view of, of what we have in Lagos, because what we are dealing with in Lagos.
So Lagos is safe for all.
Lagos
youth
is,
to thrive.
Lagos is safe for youth to thrive because the government, again, our Themes Plus agenda, we have recognized the youth as part of our agenda, which is, very loaded for you to have the youth as part of your agenda. So we must create a safe haven for the youth. We must create programs. We must create policies. We must continue to engage. We must continue to do a lot of advocacy, right? So ultimately, it is safe. But again, there are many building layers, and we must continue to build on the infrastructure that we have. Of course, we also recognize that as a government, we cannot do it alone. So we continue to call for collaboration, to see how we can partner with various private organizations as well. Again, there are also some issues that it's not just about the government, it's about the people. And every single individual, every single citizen must be a part of. So for everybody to be a part of that, then we must create a safe haven, for all of us. So yes, ultimately, Lagos is safe, and we would continue as a government, as an administration, to try and keep it safer.
All right, let's talk about making it even safer. So some elephants in the room. I want to talk about Agbero. The boys that were called tout, and I remember we had the SSG here, and she's called them the good boys. That's how the government had decided to look at them, and it's a good thing to perceive them differently. But the reality they give to the average Lagosian is as real as life can be. I don't know whether that is what you're in charge of, or there's an interception between your ministry and maybe transportation. What is your plan as a ministry for youth development for these guys who, at the end of the day, their activities affects the safety of people, affects the prices of food. At the end, if you go to some places around here and drive through, I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about. Is there a plan to repurpose these young guys so that they don't come to us as maybe nuisance, as we've seen them today, as agberos, as we've seen them today, to something rather more useful as far as the youth ministry is concerned? Because we've also had actors come here, and one of the challenges they have in shooting movies is they go to places to shoot movies, and without anybody providing any special services, they pay their taxes, agberos come and disrupt their production.
Okay, thank you very much for that. You call them agberos, we call them informal youths. Like you said, the SSG was here and she called them the good boys. On Sunday, a new coinage, because I was in church on Sunday as part of our programs to celebrate International Youth Day, and another name was given to them, Jesus Boys, right? They're human beings, they're citizens, they're a product of the society, right? You'll be amazed. Some of them have gone to school. Some of them want to do a lot of things, right? But it's life, and it is what it is. But as a government, what we've recognized this, and what we're trying to do, which is why we've coined them informal youths. We have programs that we're developing for them. We have programs that we're implementing for them. But ultimately, we're engaging them. I run an open door policy. They're in my office every single day. The informal youths, the agberos, as you call them. Prior to joining
I didn't call them. That is
no. I beg your pardon. I mean agberos that they have been called widely known as.
Yeah, which, by the way, wasn't meant to be a bad thing. Agbero was meant to be someone helping you to get passengers into your vehicle.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Recently, doing one of our engagements, someone was also, the coinage, area boys.
Area boys.
It wasn't necessarily coined as bad boys, or there are area boys in the area. Yeah. In Fade Yoluru, you have area boys.
Some even attribute it to Fela.
Exactly, which is why I use Fade
expression.
Exactly.
Area boys, they attribute to Fela, but please go ahead.
Exactly. So, it was just a coinage, but of course, we're evolving, we're developing, and things start to metamorphosize. But the informal boys, as we start to call them, you see, ultimately they need to be engaged. I run an open door policy in the Ministry of Youth and Social Development. A lot of them identify as youths, right? The fact that you're engaging them is giving them that sense of renewed hope, which is, the coinage of our president, right? So once there's hope, then there's that chance for you to see how you can thrive in the society. So we engage them continuously. They're also the good and the bad ones. They are the ones that are just not ready to
So in specific, without trying to cut you, what exactly are you doing for them besides opening your doors and speaking to them? I use the word with purpose. So I want to hear strategic plan.
Okay.
That
so
within this time, there were 20,000 quote unquote area boys, Agbero, Jesus boys, whatever you want to call them. But we've been able to take out some that has exposure to. I just want some numbers.
So yeah, to be specific, what we're doing is we're doing some informal training for them, skill acquisition, where some of them have identified they want to be barbers. We're trying to put them into clusters so that if they're a group of you in a certain demographic, we will come together, train you through some of our other agencies and ministries. For example, the WAPA, our wealth creation. Some of them have shown interest in agripreneurship. Some of them have shown interest in the tech world. So there are several programs that we're putting together, involving them in some of these programs, just so that they feel, so that they are not left behind, which is the mantra of the administration. So all of these are being put in place, but again, all of this is done through engagement, because without engaging them, you don't even really know what it is that they want. Ultimately, in all of our local governments and LCDAs, we have the SSH to Mr. Governor that have been appointed. We have youth and security. We have youth and mobilization. They are also going out, engaging, the informal youth in all of these local governments. We cannot do it alone. We're also strategically recruiting what we call foot soldiers in all of the local government, just so that they can be an interface between us and the informal boys as well. We're also doing a lot of advocacy on drugs, right? Because this is a pandemic that is eating into our society. We have relaunched what we call Lascada, Lagos State Kicks Against Drug Abuse. We're working with NDLEA, we're working with various foundations just to see how we can continue to engage the informal youth, because this is a vice that they seem to be hooked on. We rehabilitate them. We have rehabilitation homes, right, where we bring them in, rehabilitate them, and then reintegrate them back into the society. But ultimately, through engagement, we're able to find out what their needs and their desires are, and through this, we're able to give them succor as an administration.
I think it was a WTO DG, we talked about that this morning, who was saying that, politicians have found a way to weaponize insecurity to either retain or attain power. And we can easily draw or pull that into different, incidents or at least scenarios across states. Some say the so-called area boys, agberos, or what have you, are there and are still there because politicians see them as tools when it comes to either campaign or elections proper to foment trouble, intimidate people, and we've seen that play out. So I am really, really concerned about you breaking through that already established institution. It's not in the Constitution, but I tell you, that is an institution that is almost equally powerful. There are three arms of government, but that's perhaps a fourth arm of government. And that's the reality. They're powerful. You find sometimes that police even withdraws when they are on the street. They just step away because they're like, okay, we are executive, but these ones, they are area boys, arm of government. So that is my concern for you, whether you are aware of that institution and you have a strategy and the backing of government yet, because it's one thing to have brilliant plans, it's another thing to have the backing of government to be able to go all through. Just before you answer, I recently saw some boys around Berger, boys I see on a daily. Now they have uniforms they are wearing, and that's good. Now they are trying to be formalized. They still collect the tolls, but they have uniform. Very soon they can be repurposed. So speak to that institution and how you plan to break through.
Okay, so thank you very much for that. Like you said, it is an institution. Before me, during me, perhaps after me, but it's a gradual process. The journey of the 1,000 miles starts with a step, right? Just like you said, some of them are now wearing uniforms, right? That's because we've, as a government, we realize, we recognize, we understand that we need to see how we can redefine, the guys, as the case may be. So they're wearing uniforms because you're a group of boys, you are in Berger. We know that this is where you are. Yeah, we recognize you're an institution, but it is a recognized institution. So what do we need to do? We need to go there and formalize it. Put rules and regulations in place, put procedures in place, so that they can be held accountable. Once there's accountability, then it's able to ensure that things work out. Right now, this group of guys, like you said, a lot of times they are being used as weapons, especially during elections. But we thank God that we're all seeing, the trajectory of what is happening now. There's a lot of awareness. Even the boys themselves are now, perhaps it was a job, perhaps it was the only thing that they knew. But with the digital era that we're in, there's a lot of awareness. There's a lot of openness. So what we would tend to see, or what we hope to see moving forward, is the fact that they realize that they count. What they say and what they do matters in terms of elections. And I think right now there's a lot of there's a lot of hardship in the country, right? And everybody is coming to realize that we're a function of the people we put in power, right? So gradually we will start to see where the boys themselves will no longer be used. You see skits in recent times where the skits are being turned around, where people are asking the politicians, for example, where are your kids? Prior to now, you never hear that. Where are your kids? Your kids are not here on the campaign grounds with you. The boys are the ones spoiling this at the end of the day. So we're going to start seeing changes gradually, where eventually it's not going to be eradicated, but the boys would then be, repurposed and re-engineered back into the system. It's not a walk in the park at the end of the day. But again, advocacy and engagement is what we all need to do as citizens, as a people. It's not for the government alone, because when there's an issue, it's not just about the government, right? When there was the issue in 2020 where buildings were burnt and properties were destroyed, it wasn't about the politicians or the government or the institutions. It affected every single one of us. So it's an issue that every citizen must be involved in. And how you involved? By engaging, by having those conversations you don't want to have. Tunde Onokoya, for example, we are working with Tunde Onokoya as a government, where again his purpose is these kids that you talk about, or the youth you talk about in Bega, for example, where we go in as partners. I mean, because when you have the government backing, right, it just gives you another level of ability to engage, right? So we're about to launch our pilot program in Lagos Island, where we will go in with him as a government and then run a pilot. We've gotten approval from Mr. Governor, run a pilot, and then we'll see how we can replicate this across, all of our local governments and LCDs, as the case may be. So again, engagement, bringing them out of their current status, giving them hope, to be reintegrated
and
back
let the youths, let them see role models. Let the role models be close to them so they can say, oh, wait a minute, I can be better than who I am. If this person can be so, I would love to see an army of role models pushing them across, LCDs, so we can make this change.
So just very quickly, as part of our International Youth Week on Saturday, to be precise, we launched a Youth Technical Working Group Committee, right? These are 27 youths doing very well, various cadres, various aspects of Lagos, non-politicians, right? Different industries, because we realized that as a government we cannot do it alone. We brought them together, we inaugurated that committee, and the idea behind it is every single youth from different areas of the world come together. Let's sit on a table. Let's see how we can come up with policies, come up with initiatives to help, the youth, the formal, the informal, the youth in the creative economy, the youth in the gig economy, because you quickly realize things are changing very quickly. The Gen Zs, the Generation X, and as the case may be. So as a government, we need to quickly adapt, to all of these changes. And a big elephant in the room has always been the fact that the government has always been disconnected from the people, which is why I met you, Coyote, right? I met you at an event, the Kuka Event Foundation, random event. But again, as the Commissioner for Youth, I ensure that I'm entrenched into all youth activities. There's no events that is too small for me to attend. On Saturday, on Sunday I was in Shogunle. On Sunday I was in Oshodi. This week I'm going to be in VI. The other day I was in Ikoyi. So different areas in Lagos, irrespective of background, culture, I need to be close to the youth. Of course I cannot do this alone, which is why we're recruiting a lot of foot soldiers, which is why we set up this technical working group committee, just so that we can reach the nooks and crannies of Lagos.
All right, you know the reason why we had to talk about the good boys. So let me sound like the government now. Let's talk about the good boys, because if we get out of the way, by that I mean if we repurpose them, because we're using the word we now because government is everything. So your government is in charge of this. It's going to help you achieve whatever it is you have in the books easily. So let's break it down. This is Commissioner for Youth and Social Welfare, Social Development, and that's Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, still high up there, all of that. Now we have LCDAs and local government, we're talking autonomy. How much effort are you putting in as a commissioner to ensure that this trickles down to all of these LCDAs and local government, because that is where you really achieve success? Okay. Now they have some money that is coming in directly to them. At least by October, that should start.
Okay, so I like your question, but I'm going to be very frank, right? It is the responsibility of every single person that is appointed into the office to do his or her job. If everybody, is able to do his or her job, then we will not have these issues. We will not have a lot of issues, right? So it is also the job and responsibility of citizens to ensure that they get the right set of people in office, right? People that are accessible, people that actually know why they're in the office. If we do this and we all do it properly, so it's a collective effort. So if we do this and we do it properly, we would eradicate 80% of the problems we have, in Nigeria. Is it hunger? Is it, our roads? Is it, the boys that, we're speaking about? So, but as a commissioner, in my own capacity, because I cannot do it all. I'm not even trying to do it all. I'm only trying to do what I can and a little bit more. Within the short period that I have. I mean, if you look at it today, approximately, I have about 1,005 days left in office. So every single day counts, right? Every single day counts for me to be out there, to ensure I engage, to ensure I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, to play my own role and, give back my own quota, right? So as a commissioner, what I can continue to do is ensure, we reach all of the people we can reach, all of the youths we can reach. Again, the youths are 60% of the population in Lagos. If we're talking about 30 million people in Lagos and we're saying 60%, we're talking plus or minus 18, 19 million. Yeah. It's a huge population, and we're not all on the same page, right? One of the things we try to do is in each of the local governments, we're trying to get a database, right? Because as a government, to effectively affect the people and the youths, you need a database, right? So we've gone into all of the local governments with our LASTRA, which is one of our agencies, to get the database of our youth, just so that we know what they need. We know how to attend to them, how to cater to them, right? So as commissioner, these are some of the things, I'm trying to do, within my short time, to see how we can effectively, give hope, to our youths. And again, all hands have to be on deck, and this is, outside, being a commissioner and whatnot, and all hands have to be on deck because it is our community, it is our Lagos. When there's an issue or quote unquote a protest to come, we all focus on the youths, right? That's not the only time we should focus on the youth. We should focus on them throughout, because we are the leaders of tomorrow, starting today. And if we all believe in this, then every single one must participate in that engagement and in that advocacy, so that we can foster a good communal for us all.
I like the fact that you are counting down.
Yeah, I like that.
The average politician is planning for the end of the next.
I mean, you have to be realistic as well.
Absolutely. And I think your experience prior to this will maybe play a role in, or has been playing a role in what you're doing. I know a lot of people will be interested. Okay, where was he before? How did they, essentially, how did they pick him and bring him into government? And I think it points to the point I'm going to next, how people can engage government. There are a lot of people who think the government is dirty. I don't want to get hands in politics, and then by extension governance. But what you then do is allow other people take charge who may not necessarily be qualified. Because if everybody who is qualified, or at least good enough, if they stay back, life harbors a vacuum. So people will get in there one way or the other. So what are the engagement methods? And you talked about the data. So what are the things you look forward to after 1,005 days?
Plus or minus.
Plus or minus, or maybe times 2, or depending on what happens. What are those things you expect to have achieved? And I want it empirical. What data are you looking at in terms of maybe youth unemployment? You've given us 18 million youths. Wait to see the census anyway, but we can work with 18 million for now. So what's data in terms of unemployment, in terms of social development, the indices you look at? And I know there's the LSETF, the partnership and all that, but give us something to look up to. So we can always say, Commissioner, 200 days to go, you gave us this figure, how close are you to achieving it?
All right. So essentially, you want me to throw myself under the bus?
No. I want you to do what you're doing and do it for people to see.
Right. But to take it up from where you started, I'm a proud product of Owando PLC. That's where I'm coming from. I was in Owando for about 13 years before joining the government. If you look at most successful oil companies today in Nigeria, 70 or 80% of them were products of Owando, right? So I'm a product of Owando because there's a way Owando breeds you. You believe you can walk in the air, right? And you have this can-do attitude, you have this go-get-it attitude, so that is what is driving me. That's part of the qualities that I have. So transforming into the public sector, I have this can-do attitude. Prior to joining the government, of course, I had my ideas of the government, but crossing over on the level at which I crossed over, which is a very comfortable level, I have quickly realized that it's not a walk in the park. It's not a bed of roses, and it's not as easy as we tend to think it is on the other side.
It's different from corporate world.
Completely different, right? However, I would not discourage, professionals from joining, because we need professionals, right, who are also political, to join, the government, because we need to steer this ship in a certain way, in a certain direction, right? We cannot continue to sit on the fence and continue to complain without playing a role in it. How did I get into government, which is the second thing you spoke about? I challenged status quo. I went back to my community after a long time into my local government, which is in Badagry, and I started, participating, on the grassroots level. So I went through the steps. This is not the time to elaborate in it, but I believe there's a certain way and manner you need to insert yourself into the system to be part of governance, right? And which will then trickle into politics, right? But we'll go into that another day. So I went back to my local government in Badagry. I involved myself in the wards, and then I gained my recognition. I challenged status quo by contesting. Right, I contested for the Federal House of Representatives. I did not get the ticket, but it gave me the platform and the ability to showcase my capacity, my tenacity, and my can-do spirit. And that is where Mr. Governor discovered me. Right, so I didn't have a political father or any of those things, but I was able to. I was given that platform to show my capacity. Mr. Governor saw me, and we started engaging, and that is what has transformed. Giving me the opportunity to serve the good people of Lagos. So, another conversation, but again, is to say, there are certain ways you can do it. But then bringing it back to your final question or statement to say, what do I hope to see at the end of my 1,005 plus or minus days, or times 2, as you put it? Well, I hope to see a situation where we have good data to be able to capture, most importantly, the number of youths in Lagos. When we kickstarted this exercise a couple of months ago, we started with a huge number, but then it started trickling down because, again, there are so many issues, right? A lot of youths, again, are just starting to believe in the government because they are seeing people like me engaging. There are seeing people like, some of my colleagues who are also young, in the system. And, we're starting to engage. So they're starting to believe in the system. I'll digress a little bit just to hit the nail on the head. We are having a business amplifier clinic as part of our International Youth Week, right? When we rolled out, about 350 people enrolled, right? And we've gone through a series of reductions, and we have 8 final winners that would be giving grants today. And in engaging them, a lot of them did not even believe in it. But seeing what we've been doing, seeing the transparency, seeing the accountability and the professionalism, they're starting to, believe in it, and this is what we hope to see across CADA. Now, back to what I'm saying about data. right? I want to see a situation whereby the youth will believe that the data we're capturing is actually being used for the goodness of the youths, right? So I want to see a situation where we capture all of the youths in Lagos, and with this data we can do so many things. By the time we crunch it, the number of people that are unemployed, the number of people that are employed, the number of youths that have progressed, the number of youths that want to be that want to get digital training, the number of youths that want to get skill acquisition. So with data, we're able to do everything, which is why we're doing this in all local governments, and with the intention and hope that we'll capture as many as possible. Again, we will not capture every single person, but you see, for those that we would successfully capture, we hope to use those numbers to be able to generate a different generation where others that were not captured will then be able to ride on it, believing in the fact that as an administration, we have delivered the youths.
Clearly, you can articulate your thought. I must give that to you. Perhaps is why you're the commissioner for youth on this particular one. But let me give you an assignment ahead of 2027. I had a conversation with the governor when he did his media parley, and one of the questions I raised to him was the issue of what happened in the 2023 elections. And I remember him saying to us, we cannot be defined by those moments. And he made some assertions as to what played out and what could be done. So 2027 is coming. You are a politician, you're from the corporate world. So I know you can envisage what is coming. What is your plan to truly help government because you're the commissioner for youth, that's why I'm asking you this question, to truly make this state hold the status of a metropolis, not being defined? Because when election comes, we now see all those divisions, bigotry. Some people in government, even at the federal level, say some things that are distasteful, that are regrettable, and we see those things may likely happen again, given what we're seeing. What is your plan to ensure that this is played down as much as possible in reality? Because there are people that should be in jail. They are still working free for what they did in that last election. Another election will come in 3 years. It looks like far away, but I'm asking you because you're counting your days. So in counting your days, what will you do differently?
I'm doing a lot differently. And I'll give you a classic example. When we thought there was going to be a protest stroke unrest in Lagos, what I did was we came together as youths under an umbrella called Lagos State Indigenous Group, right? Irrespective of your background, irrespective of your culture, irrespective of whether you were born in Lagos, as long as you had that association and affiliation in Lagos, we are about 218 that gathered by the three wise men, right? We came there as Lagosians, united to ensure that we protect our Lagos, our heritage, right? And that was intentional. And we did that because we realized that when we come together as a people, there's a lot we can achieve. So we came together united, right? So that's fostering unity.
Are you the ones that protested against the protests?
Well, we didn't protest against the protesters because there's a right to protest, but there's a process to it as well. But what we did is we came together and said, look, our Lagos is working for us, right? I did not come out as the commissioner of youth. I came out as Mobolaji Ogulende. Our Lagos is working, and as a youth in Lagos State, I'm protecting my Lagos State. And there were 218 of us representing various youth organizations, right? There were people from in Lagos that are Igbos, in Lagos that are Hausas, but we came together under umbrella to say, no, we don't want any destruction, we don't want any issues. So we came together as that, right? And that is just a classic example to answer your question, to say fostering unity and having conversations that we are one, right, is one thing. Secondly, where I met Kayode was a similar event, right? So this is going to say that I am intentional about some of the places that I go to. It was about social cohesion, right? Fostering peace and unity. It was intentional that I went there. And I went there again to advocate, to let the youths know. There was a gentleman there that was from the opposition party. He spoke as an opposition, but my response when I was given an opportunity to address the crowd is to say, look, when it comes to governance, it's no longer about APC, about PDP, about Labour, which is what this administration is trying to do. When we're talking about all of the youths on the road, I have not said anything about, oh, you voted for us or you did not vote for us. No, governance is about the people, right? So we must continue to advocate and push this, as an administration and as individuals, because at the end of the day, right? We've seen where people crisscross into other parties and all of that. But when it comes to governance, and you're on the in the other party,
still the same government for everybody.
Exactly.
I know, Honorable Commissioner, if we left you, we can sit down and have this conversation.
I'm sure his note is full.
I know, and I can see that. I think it's quite interesting, this conversation we've had, and we as media will continue to foster such conversation to ensure that we have the very best of governance. We'll have to thank you so much.
Thank you.
You have to make your days count and your hours count, so we know you have a full day ahead. Well, we've been speaking with the Honorable Commissioner for Youth and Social Development, Lagos State, Bobolaji Ogunlende. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Gaudi. Thank you, Richard.
Well, always engage government. Don't stop. We'll take a moment now. When we return, this age limit that has been put up for admission into tertiary institutions, what does it mean? And particularly for the prodigies and the future of our nation. That's in a moment. Stay with us.
The issue of minimum age required to enter Nigerian universities. What exactly is the status now? Is it 18 or 16 years?
Well, nothing has changed, Sheon. It is 18. What we did at the meeting that we had with JAM was to allow this year and for it to serve as a kind of notice for parents that, look, this year, yes, JAM will admit students who are below that age. But from next year, JAM is going to insist that anybody going to apply to go to University of Nigeria meets the required age, which is 18. And for the avoidance of doubt, this is not a new policy. This is a policy that has been there for a long time. And even basically, if you compute the number of years learners are supposed to be in school, the number you end up with is 17 and a half. From early child care to primary school, then junior secondary school, and then the senior secondary school. You would end up with 17 and a half. And by the time they are ready, the school year is ready for admission, you have that's the age that they will be ready for admission. So we are not actually coming up with new policy contrary to what some people are saying. We are just simply reminding people of what is existing. And in any case, NECO and WAEC henceforth will not be allowing underage children to write their examinations. In other words, if somebody has not spent the requisite number of years, in that particular level of study.
Welcome back. Dr. Owolabe Akinyomade, educationist, lecturer, Department of Microbiology, Landmark University, joins us on the program to respond to some of the things said by the Honorable Minister for Education. Doctor, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm sure that what he said caused a bit of unease among a couple of people. I don't know whether you're one of them and your immediate response to some of the things he has said. Because people are saying if you put it at 18, there are young children that are pretty smart, that even by 13, they are well enough ready to go to university.
I agree with you. Looking at what the minister said, and like I would say that I may not be totally averse to you saying putting the age limit at 18. But saying now that you want to start this at this point, that you want students to get in at 18 abruptly. Now, I've come across a lot of students since I got into this field of work, and then you find teenagers, 13, 14, 15, attempting WAEC and doing very well. Very bright minds. And these students, some of them already getting to university at 15. It's been a practice, 14, 15, 16, 17. And having no issues. Coming up now and saying that the entry age for entering to university is 18, the age to write WAEC is 18, that means a couple of things. One, for WAEC it means you don't have the opportunity to practice before getting to that final stage when they are ready to go into university. Two, for those that can't get in, who are already in the secondary school right now, meaning they came in and they'll be graduating secondary school at the age of 14, 15, 16, that means they will wait 4, 3, 2 years at home doing nothing. Doing my research, I discovered that the most vulnerable state of a teenager's life is between 14 and 17. And you are saying they should be at home idle in this phase of their life, meaning they're exposed to vices, they're exposed to people influencing them negatively, engaging in unnecessary sex activity, vulnerable to depression. And you can imagine what this would do to parents who probably are busy at work and trying to make the resources available for these children to further in life. And if it's a primary school, you know, you stop a child at primary school, say, go back to the next class. The effect emotionally is not as much as when the mind is already being formed in secondary school. So it means once they get in, they can't stop. So a child already in GS1, GS2, supposed to graduate at 15, already knowing that 4 years, 3 years, or at 14, I will be idle doing nothing. So it means they are available to join street urchins, they are available to engage in vices, and then like the DGWTO said, weaponizing youth in violence for politics and things like that. It means these children are available. Some of them are very intelligent and they are focused on making a difference in their life and not getting involved in vices because they have the goal set. The goal is get a good grade. The goal is get to university at this age. Now you are taking that from them. Nothing to look forward to. It means now they're depressed, they're destabilized. Nothing, what mattered to them, what they've been looking forward to, has been taken away. They can't achieve that, they have to wait. And you can imagine the momentum they are coming with would not be the same by the time they are 18 and trying to get in. So it's painful that the government will be attempting to do this to the future of a nation. Nigeria's problem, UNESCO in 2020 published the data, said Nigeria has 1.3 million children between the age of 15 and 17 out of school. Now we are trying to increase that data, increase that number. Yes, this is a practice in most developed countries to get to university between 17 and 18. It's not a problem. So, but there, it's regulated from primary school all the way to secondary school. So it means you can't even get into primary school until you're a certain age. You can't get into secondary until you're a certain age. So I believe the best place to implement this is to first go to the secondary school or primary school, or maybe at most go to secondary school, implement the entry age at that point. Meaning, once you get at the right age, there is no way you will be leaving secondary school earlier than that. And it means writing WAEC and writing JAM will be at that age and you are good to go. No idle moment for vulnerable minds.
So, but the minister, just as a caveat, the minister had also said that, look, this is a policy and it's not a new policy. They are just enforcing it. That's on one hand. On the other hand, he said there are exceptions to the rule. But his concern is that when you give Nigerians windows, they make it doors.
Yes, that is true. And as much as that sounds right, the question is, the common entrance they do get into secondary school, who is responsible? Government. The JAM, the WAEC they've been doing, get into university, who is responsible? Government. So if government has allowed them to do common entrance to get into secondary school, and now you are telling them, when you are through secondary school, we would not allow you in, you have to wait and be busy doing nothing. I think that is not in the best interest of Nigeria. Imagine the brain drain from Japa syndrome and all that. And then, you have that challenge people are living. Now, the ones that are also coming up to fill that gap were already trying to truncate that process. I was a bit happy when he said they were, canceling some certificate or cancel some certificates from universities from neighboring countries like Togo and Benin. Now the question is not, because normally once they don't get a way in here, they will move there. So it means what you will see next is people falsifying age, because you can't keep these individuals idle. They're in the most vulnerable phase of their life, and it is not in anybody's interest as a nation, as the people, as parents, or as even community members to allow these guys to be idle.
So let's do some math. Well, that's interesting because we're talking education, right? So let's do some math this morning. And he did some of that. The average age for getting into primary school Well, in other climes, they'll tell you you are between 5 to 10 in a primary school. So let's just imagine you get in primary school at 5. Imagine, right? Hypothetically speaking, then you spend 6 years in primary school, 5 plus 6, that's 11, 10, 11. You spend another 6 years in secondary school, 11 plus 6, 7, or 17 rather, and he said 17 and a half. So for him, even doing the math alone, it's only logical that the age at which you're expected to get into university will be around 18. So that's doing the math on the one hand. When you talked about them having a chance to practice, some will say, what happened to past questions? In fact, you can have past questions from the 90s to practice with. The part where you talked about vices, them being exposed to vices if they stay back at home. Well, some will say, in fact, it is when they're at home that they have more protection under their parents, in quote, they have more supervision, rather than when they go to school and they're exposed. I mean, they stay with their friends or their roommates in school. They don't have parents, checking on them or seeing them physically, or even lecturers. I mean, you don't stay with them in the hostels. So on those 2 points again, there are counter arguments. What do you have to say to that?
Okay, so firstly, for the age, take random 10 secondary schools and ask them for primary 6. Sorry, 10 primary schools and ask them for primary 6. You won't find anybody there on the average. So pupils leave from primary 4 to secondary school. Some primary 5 to secondary school.
Pardon me, doctor, where are they rushing to? That's been the question. Why do you rush? In other climes, you hear that, well, even if you are a month to that age or 2 months, you wouldn't get in until you get to that age. So the question is, where are they rushing these children to? I mean, they are children. They should first play and learn life rather than just being thrown into school, having assignments every day. Imagine a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old having assignments. So that's the question again.
Okay, so from my recent experience, look at those that do well in JAM, have 350 and above. You find out that they are between 15 and 16, 14, 15, 16. They even do well than those that are 18 and above. Now, that shows you that there is a shift in the mind or in the mental development of an average Nigerian child. And we cannot ignore that and just trash it because we're not comfortable with it. Now, you're saying, oh, they're safer at home. Now, I come around with these children a lot. And I hear my children come in, talk about how they were molested in their parents' home. How some of them, got into vices in their parents' home. So the home in quote may not be as safe as you say it is. It may not be as safe as you say it is because the parents are not even there. They are at work. So leaving them there where there is nothing that they are accountable to do, like getting good grades in your exam, getting a good degree, there's nothing they're accountable to do, and leaving them just to wander away is allowing any other thing take that place. These are vibrant individuals. So not negating the fact that yes, they've been rushed in. I agree with that. But that's already the situation because we allow them get into common entrance. We allow them get in through WAEC and GC. So we can now stop those that are allowed now. Why not create a system that allows us to space out these ones and begin to implement what we want to have, what we say is good, from maybe primary school or secondary school, so that we don't waste the hundreds of thousands of destinies that are already primed to graduate at 14, 15, 16. And so I think I answered the question about being the safe place. Okay, so.
Yeah, it's interesting. So what do you then propose moving forward? So what you're saying, if I get you correctly, is that, well, this is a process that has started for a lot of people. So allow them complete that process. But then what some will say is that it will be hard to stop the process because as you are saying, let's complete the process for those ones. Other people have jumped into that process. So you have to keep waiting for them to complete the process. So when will there be time to do what is said to be the right thing? So have that structure in place. And as I've said, in other climes, it's there and there's nothing you can do about it, right? You have to attain a certain age for you to get into that class. Even if you're 2 months to that age, you can't get in. So when do you propose that we then regularize? How long? In the next 6 years, 1 year, or what?
I would propose 6 years, and that is starting at the secondary school level. And why so? Most state governments have a very strong goal on their secondary school education. You'll find out that their midterm is synchronized, their vacations are synchronized, resumption is synchronized, and meaning if that is the case, it means they can also regulate the entry age. They also, common entrance is also there, they can regulate the entry age at that point in secondary school. People hardly jump in secondary school. Maybe at most you try WAEC at SS2. By the time you still wait to get to SS3 because you want to make the most of what you can get there before you get into university. So I think the best place to start now is at the secondary school, at the entry level in secondary school at GS1. Put the age limit there and so if you are rushing your child in primary school, you can always say go back. Primary school is easy. They're not emotionally developed at that point. The effect of saying go back is not so weighty emotionally to them at that point. But a secondary school child can fall into depression, can engage in something just to, get excited and just forget about my peers already going ahead and I can't go with them because my age is not this. So secondary school is the best place. GS1.
Maybe in 10 seconds. So what age is it best for you? If you want to put an age to age, is it 17? Is it 16? Because some people will write JAM multiple times before they get to the university. So maybe they start writing from age 16 or 17, and there are no guarantees that they may get to school. So what age is it going to be for you?
I would say for JAM, they should start writing at 16. And I would also say for WAEC, let them start at 16 also. But let's start the preparation at GS1. The minister was saying something and wasn't too clear about the age they're allowing for this year. I know JAM said 16. But for me, let everyone who has written JAM, who has paid for JAM, who you have encouraged to write and has passed the exam, get into university this year. Then from next year, start with GS1 and let them flow that way. And that way, in 6 years, you will not have us coming back to this table talking about this.
Well, thank you, Dr. Olabi Akinyomade, educationist, lecturer, Department of Microbiology, Landmark University. Thank you for your take on this particular subject matter. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And that will be it for the program for today.
So thank you so much for being a part of the show. Lots to talk about, but we have to anchor. I'm Kayode Okikelu.
Absolutely. And we wish the Super Eagles the very best. We have a new coach in case you don't know. Thank you for watching. I'm Jeffrey Kozan.
We'll take your comments tomorrow, by the way, particularly for this topic. So don't worry. We'll get them tomorrow. Goodbye.